Good evening, everybody, and welcome. My name is Sabi, and I help run events here at the Strand. Before we launch into a discussion of Grace Miceli's debut book, How to Deal, I'd like to share a little bit of history about the Strand. The Strand was founded in 1927 by Benjamin Bass on 4th Avenue's Book Row. Searching from Union Square to Astor Place, Book Row gradually dwindled from 48 bookstores until after 93 years, the Strand is the sole survivor, now run by third-generation owner Nancy Bass Wyden. We want to thank all of you for your support. Without our loyal community of book lovers, authors, artists such as Grace, we wouldn't be here today. Tonight, we're thrilled to have with us Grace Miceli for the launch of her debut book, How to Deal with Fear, Failure, and Other Daily Dreads. Grace Miceli is one of the 9 funniest cartoonists and illustrators on Instagram, according to Vulture. Her artwork has been featured in more than 50 galleries and museums worldwide. She has created work for The New Yorker, The New York Times, Apple TV, Urban Outfitters, and Nike. Grace has been covered by Vogue, ID, Days, CNN, and more. She lives in Brooklyn, New York. Joining Grace in conversation tonight is Adam J. Kurtz. Adam is an artist and author whose illustrative work is rooted in honesty, humor, and a little darkness. His books on creativity and mental health have been translated in over a dozen languages. You Are Here for Now, a visual collection of essays, will be released in October 2021. So without further ado, please welcome Grace and Adam to the stage.
We're on the stage. Oh my God. Hi, Grace. How are you?
Hi, I'm wonderful. I'm overwhelmed. I'm excited. I'm so happy that my book is now a thing that exists in the world.
You made a fucking book, dude. That's crazy. Although, brief correction, not your first book, because you did self-publish a book
that is
2 or 3 years ago.
That is true.
Tiny, super quick background. Grace and I became friends because we both have been doing our own little art and emotional art, confessional art thing on zines and products and stickers and the internet. And you invited me to do a show at Art Baby Gallery, which is now like on the same block as the Rosemont in East Williamsburg. And that's how we met. Yeah, that pop-up event. And that was the first time I met you. And I was like, why is a cool girl emailing me? And I was so confused. But here we are celebrating How to Deal. Grace, holy shit, this book, I just poked myself in the eye. This book is so good. This is a good book. And I don't worry, we'll sell it really hard later for anyone who doesn't have it, because there's this green purchase button that keeps doing a shine effect. But Grace, it's so hard to make the leap from being your own artist and maybe doing self-publishing, releasing your own work, doing your thing your way, and then to make a book with a, hi.
Stop, Tony.
Oh my God, Tony was like, get to me.
This chihuahua, who is the star of the book.
I didn't know you were going to do that. And when I saw Tony on like so many pages, I was like, this is genius.
There he is.
But I just wanted to say that it really is so hard to take your thing and then translate into a book with a major publisher, with editors, with marketing people. There's so many people involved. And it's not to say that that ruins a book, but it changes often the nature of the work. I didn't feel that in this book. And no offense, I was expecting a little, because I've done that in my work. This is just you. And it seems like you almost got away with something where you just did your thing, but it's a hardcover, full color book. So yeah, like a bajillion congrats. And like,
thank you.
How do you feel?
I mean, I'll be honest, like, I think it's maybe so many feelings that it's a little like blank at times, but no, it feels so great. And on that note, like, yeah, I was like, I want to give a big shout out to Voracious, who published my book, because my editor, Emma, really encouraged me to just like do my thing. And they really like let me be totally free with it, which I think just helped. Like, of course, I had my own maybe like rules in my head about what I think a book should be. But yeah, I think like I felt a lot of encouragement and freedom to just kind of make it my art, which was really great.
Yeah, I really think like fans of your work will love this book and will really like, they'll see it and it won't be like, oh, okay, a pleasant surprise. It'll just be like, yeah, this is art, baby girl. And you, I mean, you have, I can't believe I'm the one saying this is so, you have quite a few Instagram followers. You have upwards of 100,000 social media fans. What is the jump like when you go from this sort of like instant gratification, I made it, I posted it thing of the internet, which you've been doing for years, and
Yeah.
you were active pre-Instagram too. You were a Tumblr. You were online
Yes.
for a long time. How did it feel to go from that to the bookmaking process, in terms of one, like preserving your work, two, celebrating it, giving it like a new, bigger home, and then three, having to sit with your anxiety for like a year and a half of like, will people like this? Because normally the internet tells you right away if the art was good or not. Yeah. So what was that like for a very internet person to deal with?
Yeah. So it was a huge shift, but one that I like have been craving for years, I think, and that I've really been wanting. Like, the internet has given me like everything in terms of my career, right? Like, I'm not gonna pretend that I wouldn't be where I'm at without social media, without like, people sharing and spreading my work. But that immediacy, that almost like addiction to that immediate gratification, I think over the years has just kind of warped my brain a bit and made me like way more of an impatient person. And I knew that I was like ready for and wanted a chance to slow down and actually, like take 6 months to look at my work, plan it out, think about what it really meant, think about how it, like, certain types of work are in conversation with other types, and just create something that existed offline. I was doing all those like pop-up exhibitions for years, which was great. But that like wore me down and burnt me out in a different way. So I think that like what's so magical about a book is that it's just like now out in the world, right? Like someone who maybe doesn't even have Instagram can wander into can wander into Strand and stumble upon it and like discover my world and my visual language. And that's like what's so exciting to me about creating it.
Yeah, I think everything that you said there makes so much sense, and I really feel that from you. And I feel like you and I have been on similar journeys in our life and in our art for a while. And when you were talking about feeling a little bit beat down by all the events, do you remember when we did that event in like the ass crack of summer in that garage that had no air conditioning? It was sponsored by PBR. We ran out of water and we were just chugging PBR to like try to cool down. And it was a little crust punky. Like everyone was super stinky, including me. And we were just like, stickers for sale. But I'm so proud of our journey. Like, I don't want to say authentic, but I already brought up your Instagram followers. So, at this point, let me just double down. It's such an authentic journey. And so many of us, and when I say us, I mean your fans and your supporters, like fans of you as a person and of your art. We've been on this journey with you. So to then see not just that you made a book, but that it's this good and it's hardcover, like you gotta, your debut, major publisher book is full color and hardcover. It's like not everyone gets that. I really love this book, and let's talk about it. Let's talk about dealing. And I'll just say that like, I felt like you did such a good job on the balancing act of making a self-help art book, because this is a crowded space now. This sort of gift book, right? There's a lot there. And I felt like it's always corny to turn your vulnerability into art. It's always corny to like make personal work, but that's kind of the beauty of it. And it's a really delicate balance, and you towed the line so well. So let's please talk about like, how do you deal with the fear and the failure and other daily dreads? Shout out alliteration and your editor.
My boyfriend actually came up with the subtitle.
Really?
Yeah.
That's like surprisingly normal for your boyfriend's art. I love his work too. I love a creative power couple.
Yeah, that's definitely what we are. Yeah, I mean, for so long, I did not deal, right? Like that, the path that I've been on was just like, you know, my whole life until, you know, like my late 20s, I didn't deal. I just like, you know, push things aside, laugh them off. And yeah, it wasn't until like I hit a really low point that I was fine. Like, all right, I gotta like face stuff, right? I gotta show up. I gotta learn to deal. And so I think it's like a way that I did that was by shifting towards and like making this type of art, making art that was vulnerable. And, you know, you are definitely someone that has been creating work in this space for years. And I do think that like you and, you know, the work of Jordan Sonder, like seeing these people, seeing my friends make this work definitely encouraged me to be like, okay, like I can do it too. Like if they can just show up as their kind of like messy, sometimes insecure selves and just like announce it to the world, that like, I don't know, maybe it would be cathartic if I did that too.
I think that I feel like you were already doing it, and that's what drew me to your work and maybe that's the thing of like, often we are revealing more about ourselves than we even think we are, and the people who love us can always tell. They can see it and feel it.
You're totally right. And that is something I look back and I'm like, oh, like my work years ago, you know, like that cereal box with the Frosted Flake cereal box, like I don't know who I am anymore. I made that and I was like, this is just something funny. Like this is like, I was like hiding behind my art and I was like masking my actual feelings, right? Like I wasn't even aware that that's maybe how I really did feel. So
I mean, yeah, like I am insecure about some things. Like, Grace, it wasn't a secret.
No, but I think it was to myself. I think that's the thing, right? It's like this book, now I'm able to step in and like proudly kind of own it, where for most of my life, and there's like a longer form kind of like narrative comic in the book that's like that's called something like How to Have Feelings After You Pretended That You Didn't for 20 years or something like that. So there is this shift of just, yeah, like outwardly, explicitly acknowledging all that stuff.
Yeah, I think, you know, maybe that's also been such a part of your, and this isn't fair because like we know each other and I've seen your transformation in real life, and probably a lot of people who love you are watching this event too, and like we've all seen it, and it's like, yeah, you becoming self-aware about the things that you were already saying. And just listening to yourself, right? As soon as you pick up the pieces that you're putting down, then you can address them. And it's like, oh, I don't know who I am anymore, LOL, but like, what if I figure it out? And
exactly.
I think to be the type of artist that processes outwardly is really like it's like a really funny experience, because you don't always know that you're creating the tools to save yourself as you're creating them. But then when you really need to save yourself, like, there are the tools, they are there. Like, it's the note to self. And I feel like this book becomes such a beautiful, almost like a time capsule of the version of yourself that you have been and are now. And to look back at the work, recontextualize it, add more context and more surrounding information, and then basically be like, here's my manual. Here's what I was struggling with. Here's what I did to fix it. And then not to be like, hey, you must read this. Like, I'm a doctor, here's your medicine. Just to be like, here's a cute book that you could, see at the Strand bookstore, an iconic bookstore celebrating over 90 years. And accidentally, help someone is, I don't know, it's just really cool. It's really cool that art can do good in the world.
No,
I just love art, Grace.
Oh. Is that hat currently available?
Yes, it is currently available from mywebsite.com. Man, it's just
no, but speaking to that was something that I'm curious, like, what do you ever, I don't know if regret is the right word, but do you ever have complicated feelings about making work that is like explicitly about what you're going through? Because sure, it can be argued that all art is an expression of the artist's like internal world, right? But the art that we make is, sure, there's lots going on, but like it is often kind of literal in some ways, and like we just put it all out there. And I'm just curious, like, if you've, I don't know, if you're just like, this is what I'm happy I'm doing this, yeah, let's go, or if you're ever like, ooh.
I think that and this is true for creative people, but also anyone watching this who is just afraid of opening up about how they're feeling to a loved one, or even people who go to therapy but like don't tell their therapist everything, because it's hard, right? It's hard to express those things. There are ways to be honest without revealing every single thing. And so I've been making this really confessional, personal work, and it wasn't like a surprise to me. You know what I mean? Like, I knew all along that I was bad at secret keeping. So I didn't have the delusion of like, nobody knows that I have a mental illness. It's like, no, but everyone knows, we love you, it's okay. But there's so much that I don't share that's not in my work. And some things about me that other people don't know. There are things that very few people know about me. And there have been very few moments in my career, in my work, in my public speaking, where I've revealed a little more than I meant to. Yeah. There was I did a live speaking event, and I had I had like a mocha frappuccino kind of drink right before. So I was fucking nuts. And I said more than I wanted to, and people responded well to it. But I was like, oh, that was my secret. So I'm glad it wasn't on Instagram. You know what I mean? I'm glad it was limited to a tangible space. But I think overwhelmingly, being honest about what you're experiencing and speaking to someone else is the only way to get better, the only way to get help, and frankly, the only way to connect, because everybody's fucked up. Everybody's fucked up inside, and they're so preoccupied with their fuck ups that yours are actually not going to shock them. Like, no one's going to cut you out of their life because you had, a bad day. It's like, yeah, it's just fine. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
I feel like vulnerability. Okay. So, and you said this to me this morning, vulnerability is kind of a buzzword in the way that, internet and marketing and publishing, forces us to commodify every single human element so that we can sell product behind it. I just want to say a huge shout out to, every corporation that enabled this event to happen, including Tim Cook and, of course, Jeep Beazle, whose wonderful website, Amazon.com, we also just, it's so hard to be alive, Grace. It's like everything is a little bit bad. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you dig deep enough, everything's a little bit bad. And that's why we need art like this. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know that this kind of art isn't like the coolest art. Like, you're not going to walk into a museum necessarily and see, no offense, 200 pages of this book like blown up and in the MoMA. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that kind of work, but it is accessible. It is welcoming. It is so distinctly human that you can tell a real person made this. Like, I can look at this and say, pencil and paper, a human made this.
Yes.
And sometimes this kind of art is like the only thing that makes being alive feel good, because everything else is so fake and so fabricated and so like planned to elicit some kind of response. I love your work. I love your work. Unironically, I'm not embarrassed to say I'm a fan. I don't feel weird about that. I can be your friend and your fan. Like, there's something about what you do that is so good. And I really think like one of the best existing versions of this type of work, because so many people make this type of work. So many people write a self-help book and they really want to help you, and they want to help you so bad that it just doesn't, the connection gets lost. And I feel like your whole vibe is just, it's like, hey, everyone, yep, this is what I would like. Okay, bye. Do what you will with this.
No, right. And I think that that's, you know, something that I was thinking of as someone who, you know, ever since I like went back to therapy and started, you know, like shifting my interest towards that type of literature, right? I started reading self-help books, started reading books on spirituality. Like, I noticed which ones actually helped me and which ones were just kind of, right, being like, I know everything. Like, let me show you the way. Because yeah, that's never it, right? It's like, what works for me is these little bits from all these different teachers and all these, you know, different types of wisdom. And I mean, this really is like, yes, sure, that's like the technical category, right? Is self-help. That's how it's categorized on bookseller websites. But yeah, I think you said this and someone else too, that like it is kind of more like a self-awareness book, right? It really is me talking to myself. It's like a, you know, like my head just like turn into a book because that's what it is, right? Like, we as artists, we create what we needed when we were teenagers or when we were 25, right? It's like we're talking to our past selves because, you know, we're making work from experience, from things we've learned, ways we've grown. So that's what I tried to do, because like I know, you know, because of the life I've lived, right? The like all the privileges I've had, all the things I've had, like I know that not every single thing in here is going to be relevant or like make sense to everyone, but I hope that like the breadth of things I've covered, there's maybe like one page in there that, hopefully more than one page, that someone likes, but you know, that there's like some little bits that can, you know, like turn on a light for someone.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the power of your work, is that it's not explicitly prescriptive, right? You're not telling me, I mean, it's called How to Deal, but it's not like step 1 of how to deal, step 2. It's like, it is absolutely like listening in on your inner monologue, which is told through, I'm going to say it. It's told through relatable cultural experiences.
It's okay.
But you know, it's a shared nostalgia, and it's a language that we can all, and not all, but many of us can connect to. And so you're letting us in on your inner monologue. It is comparable to parts of our inner monologues, and we're able to learn that way. And it's sort of like a very active choice to passively instruct. And that is the power of this book. Like, this is a book that I could give someone who I think is lacking self-awareness without triggering them so hard that they either don't read it or they hate me. This is like, you can give this to your niece and be like, here's a cute book, Merry Christmas. And then 3 months later, you know, your niece is working on her own spiritual journey. And that's the beauty of a book like this, is that it has that power. I will say that to make a book like that requires a lot of like, you know, being deep inside the onion. And so I wonder, are you someone who is always like kind of over obsessing about the future? Or, you know, like how do you navigate basically being that kind of a planner and then also being like extremely present? Because as you now know, that is the key to, you know, being happy or whatever.
Whew.
Sorry.
No,
I will be invoicing you $180 for this therapy afterwards.
No, it's so hard. And like, right, there's so, there's so many pieces in this book about, I think about that, about like trying to be right here and stay present, because it's something that I really, really struggle with. And obviously so many people struggle with it, right? And it's like, yes, you can meditate, you can journal, there's all, you can exercise, right? There's all these things you can do, but like, this past week, just doing book promotion stuff, like if I was doing all those things every day, I would feel so much better. Did I do them? No. Have I just been on my phone? Like, yes. So, it's, I don't know. I think just some days you're able to do it better, right? There's some weeks where you can just like leave your phone at home and go for a walk with your dog. And I know.
Have you left your phone at home before?
Yes. That's the
what
thing.
the fuck?
With Tony, okay, because my dog is so dramatic, I have to like be very present when I walk him, because we have to avoid other dogs. So I don't take my phone when I walk him. So like that is one way in which I have been kind of like, the circumstances have forced me into like a more present state where I'm actually like, I mean, it's also another state of anxiety, because I am like paranoid looking around, but I'm not like numbing out. I'm not numbing out on my phone. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's right. Again, it's so you've heard it a million times, right? Like just put your phone away. Like, like don't check your phone all the time. But I don't know. I think maybe we just have to like say it to ourselves enough times before we actually like learn it in our bodies, right? And like develop better routines. But I don't know. It's hard, that balance of being like, okay, now I'm, in my 30s, I want to plan for my future. Like, what do I want out of my life? But you can take those questions and then just like lay in bed staring at the ceiling, like mind racing. So how do you like let those thoughts just kind of like pass through you? I don't know. What do you think? Do you know?
I don't fucking know anything. The more I learn, this is like a mom art tile, but like the more I learn, literally the less I know. I was laughing because I have my stack of books for the computer, and like the back of my first book literally says, "Put down your phone and pick up a pencil," and I'm like, "Put down my like who was I when I wrote that?" Like I don't remember being that person.
Yeah.
I have no recollection. Sorry, I'm just opening the windows. I need air. I feel like I triggered myself and now I'm starting to sweat.
Do you it got too real. Do you think like you left New York this past year. Did that help you? Like, are you more present now that you live like in this beautiful place?
I don't want to sound like an asshole, but it's probably whatever. It's fine. Hawaii is a very beautiful place, but I actually live with my in-laws, and I live in my sister-in-law's teenage bedroom. Speaking of how to deal, like very on brand for this talk, like this is my sister-in-law's teenage bedroom. Like there's her like Hello Kitty piggy bank. That drawer is full of like neon pink bras from like the mall. There is like some 10-year-old Bath and Body Works products that I'm desperate to throw out. They all smell like, glitter bomb or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to be in a bigger space, because I mean, living through March and April in New York City was so hard last year. And I mean, we're doing COVID. We're doing this chat. You remember I lived a block from the BQE. It was nonstop sirens, and I think I'm still unpacking what that means. But so moving here helped in some ways, but actually what helped is that I got a new therapist and I switched my meds. So
there you go. Okay.
And every day that I just feel happy for no reason, I'm like, thank you, science, because it does take that. It takes that step. It takes not that step, but it takes the step of listening to yourself and giving yourself what you need. Because self-help is great, but self-help in general is really a reminder, because we're not stupid. Like, we know what we need. We know when we're hurting ourselves. We know when we're self-soothing. We know when we're engaging in negative behaviors.
Yeah.
We know when we're having a drink because we just can't deal with this anymore. We know when we're getting high because we're actually avoiding the work we're supposed to be doing. Like, I know when I'm eating a sleeve of Oreos because they're good, or when I'm eating a sleeve of Oreos because, like, I was so close to the end, like, I should just, what else am I doing? So it's just time. It's like, it's time to listen. And that's what I like about this book, is like, it's not saying I have to do that, but it's such a great reminder in a totally safe, friendly, colorful way of like, get it together, time to deal.
Yeah.
Because we actually fucking need it. After the last, it's been so hard. And I feel like this book is part of what can be a process of digging ourselves out.
Yeah. No, I know. And I made it this last year. So like that, I think there's definitely an element where like, yes, this is for my younger self, but I also made this to get through this last year, right? Like I was creating, like I had to do that because, like I couldn't cope in all my regular ways, right? It's like, sure, I could Zoom with my therapist, right? Like there was stuff I was able to kind of do, but I think in a lot of ways, like having to create this book saved me because it was like a safe place to escape to, right? Like we all had to escape in some ways, right? I think exactly what you're saying. Like it was so hard to confront what was actually happening in 2020. So to like be able to dive into this, right, like colorful world that was, trying to like awaken things and like shift perspectives and, everything I try to do in my work. I think it was good that I like had the assignment where I had to make it, because if I didn't have to make it this last year, like I might have not made any art, right? I might have like shut down so much. But I'm lucky that I like had a contract and had to make, like 200 colorful pages. I think it like I think it was, not to make it so meta, but like creating this book is how I dealt last year for sure.
So can I ask a personal question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I know that's like a scary thing to hear when you thought this was personal the whole time.
Yeah.
So you're really now talking about how this project helped save you. And to me, I hear you. And the part of me that's really aligned with your creative practice as well is also calling a little bit bullshit, because it's so sad that we need work to be the thing to make us do that. But it's also so obvious for us as people who have made their lives their work and their work their lives. The line is so blurry. But what I wanted to ask you is, I know that your own personal transformation, increased awareness, mental and physical health journey kind of started a few years ago. And I'm wondering if you personally feel like having had started that in advance of the pandemic is really gave you the tools to get through, and how might you have coped if you did not have any layers of awareness like that?
No, that is completely true. Yeah, I kind of went through what I think a lot of people went through a few years ago, right? Where I like hit my low. I realized I was, like abusing drugs and alcohol. I was, like repressing all of my emotions. And I hit that like low point where I was in my apartment. I wasn't leaving. I didn't have Tony yet. Like I wasn't going outside, like a very, very low, dark point. And yeah, like luckily I had friends and family who were like, maybe try a therapist, right? Like, so I did that, and I had about 2.5 years of getting a head start, right, on all of that work. And
Yeah.
I talked about that in therapy so much. Like I talked with my therapist about, she was like, you know, when I would tell her my anxieties of like the book and work, right? And she was like, you're doing fine. Like I would tell her, I'm like, I worry I'm escaping too much into work. I worry I'm distracting myself with work, right? This is all I think about. She was like, if that's how you need to cope this year, she was like, you're okay. She's like, you're doing fine if that is like how you're coping now. And I still know that, yes, I want to be a person that can like detach more from work and not have every experience be like, all right, how can I make this into like art to post online or to put in like my next book, right? Like I would
Yeah.
love to get to a point where like, I don't know though, if it's like more compartmentalized, if that is the better way to be. And I've been figuring that out for the past few years too, right? Of like,
Yeah. I don't know necessarily if that is possible for creative type. I mean, I spent a lot of time thinking about the creative type and the artist type. And I think tortured artist to an extent has to do with that compulsion, where it's impossible to live without thinking about preserving moments and memories and experiences, whether it's a tweet or a photo on your phone that you just never post or do anything with, but you had to take it, or it's a drawing, or it's a book, or it's journal. Like that's a type of person, and that's how you process. So I don't think that's bad. It's maybe the compulsion to share instantly that starts to feel like,
yes,
you know, it feels like a job. It's like, I have to give Mark Zuckerberg this image so he can run ads in between it and then tell me that only 20% of my audience saw it. This is my job. And it feels that way.
yeah,
I was going to say too, when you were describing like hitting that low point, you know, realizing that you felt you were using alcohol and drugs to a level that you were no longer comfortable with, that you felt maybe out of control with. People, and I think this is true of my work too, and that's why I bring it up. People see work like this that is accessible and colorful and friendly, and they think like, oh, this is like a light and fluffy, like, LOL, love it. And it's like, the aesthetics of serious work, it doesn't have to be like black and white. It doesn't have to be like polished chrome. It doesn't have to be Helvetica or what. Like there's absolutely no reason this can't be serious. And if anything, I think your aesthetic, the aesthetic of your work, the language you choose, disarms people enough to have the conversation, and then has the conversation. And I always feel like that's what my work is doing. And so I see that in your work, but I really wonder about people who just like, I don't want to say ignorant, because there's a lot of things that we are all truly ignorant about. And, you know, navigating the teen girl aesthetic of mental illness artwork is not one of them. Like, we don't need to normalize. There are better things to do. But
yeah.
I feel bad almost for people who are missing the message here, because I get it. Like, I really get it. And I'm proud of you for sharing that in a public facing event even. Because I mean, you told me I could say whatever, but even then I was like, ah.
No, and that's like, again, what it comes down to with all this work, it's like, you know, you open up, yes, for yourself, but you open up so that other people, you know, can feel less alone about it, or, you know, can exactly connect with it. It's like, yes, connecting over happy, silly things is great, but like, I think it's so much more important to connect over the like darker, scarier things, because those are the things that we convince ourselves in our head that like something's wrong with us, I'm the only one, right? And like that's how you go even further down. So again, I'm not saying like this book is going to save anyone's life, but I think, you know, there's could be things in it that could like pause.
Yes.
Right? Like pause you from going full force in a certain direction. I mean, I don't know. That's, again, I wish I had.
Yeah. I mean, I think you had a version of it, right? Because you saved yourself, and only you can ever save yourself. No book, no matter, you know, which therapist wrote it or who gifted it to you, like nobody can save you but you. And so the thing that triggers that can vary wildly by anyone. And I really kind of feel like most self-help is the same thing, right? Like in all our many years of being humans in the world, it's like there's really like 10 answers. There's really just like 10 answers to all of humanity. And it's the questions that vary. And so we are taking these 10 answers and we're translating them through words, through art in all forms, music, film, live performance, sculpture, like all of it. And we're just answering the same questions over and over, shouting in our individual languages, hoping that the 5% of people that share an inner monologue similar to ours can hear us. And I think, I mean, I just keep saying it, like, I am such a fan of your work because you do it and you do it really well. And I really, I mean, Grace, I've been ready to buy whatever book you make for like 5 years. Like, I've been so thirsty for a Grace Miceli book. But the fact that you did it is so amazing. The fact that you did it and it was possible and it's out and it's accessible, and like, this is your little like Horcrux. I'm so sorry. I'm a Harry Potter nerd from when I was young. Like, this is it. This is a piece of you. And like, you could die next, I mean, don't, you know, but you could pass away tragically at a young age. And this, your inner monologue exists and can do good in the world. And that, it's just really fucking cool.
Thank you, Adam.
I gotta bust out the larger fidget toy because the little one is not effective anymore.
Yeah.
I just got this recently.
Sparkly.
You,
Shiny.
how does it work again? You put your arm through and then it goes like this and it's like a sensory thing.
Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's very, you know how every year for Christmas or holidays, like whatever people get you a lot of, like tells you something about yourself. Like one year, my husband was like, stop buying me the Gudetama, like that Sanrio egg. Stop buying me that stuff. And this year I got several anxiety fidget toys and I was like,
everyone knows.
Yes,
like,
your message has been received. Oh my God. So we are going to open the Q&A soon and people can ask more personal questions. We talked about creative process, but there's so much else that I would love to hear. So it's up to the people. I mean, because you also navigate this highly personal artwork and then doing brand collaborations and projects with big brands like Fuji and Fujifilm and Nike and like cool shit and all your Giphy stuff and murals, like your mural at Elsewhere, which I love. I love seeing your mural at Elsewhere when I'm so fucked up that my vision's blurry and I'm like, Grace did that. And everyone's like, who?
It's so big. That was the scariest thing I've done in my entire life.
Did you have to go on one of those big scaffolding things?
I had to go on a scissor lift, 3 stories in there, and I mean, I made it out, but
it's such a cool mural, though. It's so. I'm doing double fidget right now. Am I okay? Yeah.
Should we see what we got?
See what's going in the questions. I'm gonna open my browser. People are able to vote up the questions. Ooh, okay, let's do this. Diane asks, I don't know how to make it go on the screen. Diane asks, what page or spread best exemplifies your inner monologue, if you had to pick one?
Ooh. So I think the longer comic that I referenced before, the one that's like about my journey with repressing and then finally opening up about my emotions, that's like the most narrative one. It's the longest one. I knew it before I even started making the book, I wanted to create that piece, but it was like the last thing to do because, you know, I wanted it to be like right or real or whatever. So I think that one is like the most explicitly kind of honest. But yeah, I think like the comics are, because, you know, they're like they blend. I go back and forth between the like serious, more prescriptive suggestions with the really silly stuff, which I like to think that's ideally how it is in my brain, right? Like you know, like feeling terrible, but then knowing that everything is okay, so you can kind of laugh at it, not laugh at yourself, but like laugh at the situation that you find yourself in.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly my coping strategy, and that's how I am still alive. So I
Yeah.
agree. And even the way you do like the to-do list and the shopping lists,
Yes.
that
Yes.
is like, it's more literal, but then it's like, it's your shopping list. So if I internalize something, that's on me. Like, you didn't tell me. So I love that strategy. Okay, there's some good questions here. Austin asks, who are some artists that inspire you?
So I had like messaged this to Adam before, like when I think of this book and I think of like the voice I was going for, it was kind of like Clueless meets My Therapist meets Miranda July. Like that was, I do think there's the voice that is sure maybe mine, but again, right, it's this combination of like teen movies with you know, fine art that's also emotional, and then, you know, like actual therapy. But I think like my biggest visual influence, the thing that I saw that changed my life, was Greg Araki's films that I watched like in college. Just like the colors and the worlds that he created, that was the first time I was like, oh, this is what like I wish everything looked like. So I think like films for me, a lot of that. But yeah, I love Amy Sedaris too. I just love people that kind of, they, you know, they aren't just like strictly visual artists, maybe.
I think also those references that you're sharing are really that like highbrow, lowbrow thing.
Yes.
Where they can be in conversation with each other. It's not one or the other, which is exactly how I feel about your work. So I personally feel like, yeah, nailed it. I totally see that. And it makes sense that that's who we would both kind of gravitate to. Miranda July is such a great example of that, and Amy Sedaris too. Questions. How do you deal with mental blocks, and are there certain routines you do to help you overcome it?
Ooh.
Someone always asks this question, so this can be like the practice for the next event.
A thing that I like, there's multiple references to it in the book, and when I do it, it feels so good. But that, like, when you wake up in the morning and you don't touch your phone and you just go to your journal and, you know, kind of do the like morning pages version of just writing, stream of consciousness, writing everything, right? You're not, it's like, it's illegible. So you're just like scribbling any words, any thoughts that come into your head, which, you know, so then you are just kind of releasing all the like cyclical, anxiety inducing, obsessive thoughts. That when I'm doing that, like, I mean, every day, that's just, I did that like once when I first started The Artist Way, but when I can do that.
That's everybody with that. Sorry. Yes, every single person reads The Artist Way, does morning pages once. Yeah, it's.
Right, so I don't know.
And then you realize it was genius and you come back to it. I love that answer though.
I think just, you know, again, something that we're only now being able to do, but just like being a person out in the world, like, you know, where you have those, like, again, those awkward interactions or just those conversations with friends, like that's what inspires me. I think the blocks come from when it's just me in my head, alone, locked in my apartment, obsessing over things, because then there's not space for like the muse to visit or whatever.
I loved that, by the way. If the Strand team can make a GIF of that, I will use that as a response. But yes, I mean, a 1,000,000%, because don't you think this is like maybe a little more spirituality kind of thing, but I think like the universe is always telling us what we need to hear in overheard conversations or seeing the right tweet at the right time. Like it's like the answers are all around us. And
Yeah.
it's only when we know the question that we can really hear and internalize it. And there is something about just like going outside to a coffee shop. It's like I could make coffee at home, but I'm paying $4 because I might hear something on my walk from here to there.
Yes.
That is going to save my whole day. Like that was my New York experience. Was like get up, go for a walk, buy the coffee, and then come home and then spend 10 hours on the computer.
I know. I also, have you read Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic? Is that what it's called?
It is. I'm supposed to have read it probably, but I have not read it.
That book is kind of about that, and about like being open to like that. I read that book a few years ago, and it did really help me.
Fine, I'll go buy it from the Strand.com. Strand Books. I don't know the website. That's bad. Strandbooks.com. That's where I'll be purchasing. I'll probably get it from the library, to be honest. Do you have a library card? Are you a member of the Brooklyn Public Library?
Yeah, I've only ever used it for like Kindle books or ebooks.
Ebooks from any platform.
Not the other. Yeah.
No, it's good that you mentioned a brand because again, like Jeep Diesel will come to your home and haunt you if you don't. Yeah, the library is fucking awesome.
Yes. There's a
sidebar. We love the library. You know how people could support this and all books is one, of course, purchase the book, but then also request that your library get it so that they have to buy it too. Genius life hack. Okay, more questions. Oh, this is a good question. From Annie, how do you find time to relax while making art full time? What do you do to rest, like specifically to rest?
So this is something that was new to me. I used to never do this. And it's just so easy to like always be thinking about stuff, always, like I said before, like what can I turn this into? Or just, that scarcity mentality of like, if I take a week off, like I'm never gonna get hired again. Everyone's gonna unfollow me. Just like this dramatic way of thinking that I was definitely doing, but like I just decided to. I mean, again, it helps. Like I'm dating someone who is takes days off, and so I think I needed someone else in my life to be like, hey, like let's go drive out somewhere and like walk in nature. It's really hard for me to not like, I still check my email every day. But I'm really trying to like, take weekends off, which is so sad that like that is hard for me to do, but I don't know. I don't have a good answer for this. I'm learning. I mean, I'm taking most of the summer off. So like, that's a big deal for me. I'm going on a road trip where like, I'll have my iPad so I can maybe do some stuff, but
thank God.
I can't like I'm not going to have my markers, my scanner. So like I am setting some boundaries.
You don't have a travel scanner?
I know.
Sorry.
No,
I'm just kidding.
I do, but I'm not taking it because I'm just like,
don't take it.
Just
don't
look
take
at the world. Look at the world for once, right? I don't know. We'll see if it works.
I love that. And I love that. I mean, I was smiling goofy because like love is crazy. Love is so crazy. And like you having this relationship and developing a bond with someone who knows the answer of how to take time off work is what helps you. And I'm sure that you being like slightly manic when it comes to your work schedule helps influence them to be more productive. And I have a similar dynamic with my husband where like he basically saved my life, but then I build his pitch decks. So we're even.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
And that's love. That's an exchange.
Yeah.
I'm excited for your road trip. I can't wait to follow you on social media at ArtBabyGirl on all platforms. Wait, you're not on Twitter though.
No Twitter.
That's wild. That should be page one of how to deal is delete your account. I will never do that. But
I've heard it's a smart choice I've made.
You do miss out on a lot of like very specific New York journalist media outrage. And it feels really important when you're on Twitter. You're like, wow, everyone's talking about this. And it's like, no, those 50 people all work for the New York Times. Like, you can unfollow some of them. Can I say that actually, you asked me about Hawaii. The number one thing about being here is the 6-hour time difference. Like right now, it's 2 p.m. When I log onto Twitter, I have no idea what the fuck's happening. I don't know who the Twitter, protagonist of the day is. Like, I don't know what we're mad about in like book Twitter. Like, I just don't know. And it's bad for like my brand building because my tweets are flopping more, but it's really good for me.
That's
I think we have time for like 2 more questions. I definitely want to answer this question. Kate says, hi, Grace and Adam. Do you have any advice for an aspiring artist? How would you deal with close relationships and them not being supportive of your art?
Ooh.
Right? That's major.
Great question. I think kind of hitting both of those, you need to find your people. Like, you need to find your peers, the other artists that are kind of, I don't know, at your level or like exploring similar things. Like, that's what, I don't know, maybe it's different now. I think that like social media has like expanded so much, right? Like, maybe it's like idealistic of me to just be like, go online and find your people. Cause that's what I did on Tumblr. And then that's what I did with these like pop-up DIY shows in New York. And then that's what I've done now with like, Adam and Jordan and these other artists who are, making like vulnerable illustrations. But along the way, like, I've had other friends who are artists, and like that was definitely a thing. And some of us are just not friends anymore. Like, I think that, like, your community
names. No.
Shift. Your communities are gonna shift, and like, I think it just does take time to find people that you align with. But I think it's very important to have friends to like talk about, like rates, like contracts, inspiration, right? Before you get to that level where you are, at like a different scale, just having people to like vent to or ask questions.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything you're saying about building a community really helps, because when our families don't necessarily understand our choice to pursue creative pursuits, to pursue a creative career, or even just a hobby that we are investing a lot of time and money into, a community of creative people, they're not questioning those choices, right? They get it. And so you can save the first 15 minutes of a conversation where you have to explain yourself and jump right to the actual task at hand. It's like, they understand your creative compulsion. Okay, next question. What do I do with all this red paint? I bought too much.
Yes.
And so I would also say, for an aspiring artist, but also for any artist who's watching this, any creative person, whether you're a writer, a hobbyist, a TikToker, I sound old, whatever you are doing, to do the thing because you have to do it, because you feel a compulsion to do it, because you love doing it, and you will never have any regrets. Because the reality is that there is not necessarily a guaranteed blueprint for making a living off your art. I can't promise you a book deal. I'm thrilled to report that actually getting a book deal does not mean that you're rich. And in fact, getting a book deal can be very scary and not pay that well. It's like, there's just not a blueprint. But if you are doing something that you love, that brings you enjoyment, that makes you feel more okay in the world, if you are using art to save yourself, if you are, like Grace, making work that you can later reflect back on and be like, oh, this was what I was going through. Now I understand how to work past it. That's a success. And so it's really about defining what you want your art to be, and look beyond financial reward, look beyond recognition from your peers, definitely look beyond recognition from your parents, because my parents like just figured out what I do. I mean, really, like, they are still like, how is this a thing? And I don't disagree. I'm also like that. I'm like, wait, what? What? So yeah, I mean, you got to just do it because you love it. I realize that we are out of time. I'm so sorry. I kind of talk a lot, and so we didn't get to answer every single question. Grace, I love your book so much. Everyone, if you have not purchased a copy, please press the green button to purchase How to Deal from the Strand. If you've already purchased a copy, feel free to purchase additional copies from different retailers so that it's reported to BookScan. That's, yeah, Grace, do you have any like final message for everybody?
No, just Adam, you were so wonderful. Thank you for being a friend and like guide through this process for me. You're great.
I love this book so much, and we don't need to compete. There's enough space for everyone, so I will support you literally until I die, which could be soon, but I might not.
Thank you, Chloe. Thank you, Adam, so much. I felt like we ended on a perfect note, just about what artistic endeavors should be. So thank you guys so much. I hope everyone enjoyed tonight. And again, just like Adam said, if you would like to make the purchase of Chloe's debut book, you could
Grace Miceli.
It's Grace.
Oh, sorry.
You kind of have a Chloe vibe about you.
I
Very
like
the
that.
90s earrings. Yeah.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Chloe Grace. That's what it's.
Chloe Grace.
Oh.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.